Thank you. You are now watching the He Say She Say Sports Show. What's poppin', everybody? How you doing, Brody? How you feeling, man?
I'm doing wonderful, man. It's been a great week for me. It's been a great week for sports. We're about to have an amazing show today. March Madness, baby, as Dick Vitale would say. Let's go, baby.
And shout out to the homegirl, Stonia Blaze and Manboy Mafia for blessing your boy with this wonderful T-shirt and crew neck. I love crew necks.
So fly.
If you guys been watching, I shout out the homies for wearing their merch. But yeah, let's jump straight up into it, Brody. Right. So we're gonna talk about your team. So I know it's near and dear to your heart, yes. But with some of the things that have been going on as far as free agencies, I'm not. Have y'all picked up it? Have y'all made any moves? Are there
moves? Man, we made less moves than the old person in a nursing home, man. No disrespect. Moves. Look, man, the Baltimore Ravens, they did address the offensive line by getting Kevin Zeitler, who's replacement of Marshall Yanda, which we spoke about, I believe, in a prior show. Right, but as far as the creme de la creme, the wide receiver position, the position that will put the Baltimore Ravens over the top, that will help Lamar excel to that next level as a passer, the Ravens have made no such moves. They have not been able to acquire any receivers for the Baltimore Ravens, for Lamar Jackson. A number one receiver, so we're looking for an X receiver. And it's looking like the Baltimore Ravens are, at this current juncture, failing one Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. They're failing him, 100%.
Yeah.
And you approve of that message?
Yeah, I approve of that message. So if you would like me to expound, no, I was thinking that was like a nice little intro to it, but okay. Yeah. But I might go that route. But I believe that they've been failing Lamar Jackson, and the reason why is because we're looking at an organization, right? Who you've had Dez Bryant, you've had Willie Snead. You've had one Steve Smith who's called out Greg Roman, his passing game scheme. He said, update his database. It's filled with viruses, spyware, etc. The jerseys change, right? But the scheme doesn't. The offense stays the same. You know, you've had Colin Kaepernick, you've had Tyrod Taylor, and now you have one Lamar Jackson. And so their formation is a junior varsity formation. They're running RPOs. You can't continue to run RPOs every single all game. And it's one wide receiver, two running backs, two tight ends. Where are your other receiving threats? Right. And that one wide receiver that you have is Hollywood Brown. And I'm not dissing Hollywood Brown. I like him, but he has not proven to be a number one receiver. He's a body catcher. He's small. He gets easily pressed at the line of scrimmage, so those are the different things. And he's had a propensity to drop the ball during the regular season. Now, during the playoffs, he's been able to catch some passes, but he puts no fear in the hearts of men. You know what I'm saying? So what Lamar Jackson needs, he needs that big body 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" possession receiver with a large catch radius, can go up, snatch the ball out of the sky, can also run block because they need that in this offense, and they need to excel with the passing game. I will say this, though. I'm going to give them a chance. Because of their scheme, right, Ralph? Receivers are not going to be attracted to going to the Ravens because they run the ball more than any other team in football, right?
Right.
So what they need to do is they need to get a receiver via trade with trade assets or via the draft. This is a wide receiver rich draft once again. The Baltimore Ravens have not had a really good history of drafting receivers, have not had a Pro Bowl receiver of their own. The last receiver that they had was back in 1996. His name was Michael Jackson. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, not the king of pop. His name was Michael Jackson. He was bald. I forgot the number he wore. I was like 4 years old, right? He was the one person that they had acquired. But through the draft, what they've done now is they hired T. Martin, former offensive coordinator for the USC Trojans, I believe, and they hired Keith Williams. He's been a personal wide receiver coach for one Sammy Watkins, one Devontae Adams, as well as the great Tyreek Hill. So you're looking at that. And when you're in the draft room, right, you're supposed to have a collective effort. So I believe that you bring in the T. Martins to improve the pass game. You bring in the Keith Williams, right? And so when they're looking at the wide receivers on their draft board, I believe that this time around, they have a chance to finally get it right. So if they want receivers to come to the Baltimore Ravens in the future, right, they're going to have to develop their own. And let's start off with having a good draft and making some moves. So as it currently constructed, the Baltimore Ravens, I feel like they've failed Lamar Jackson by being cheap and acquiring receivers and drafting the wrong receivers. And this is his final year of his contract, leading up to a contract extension. So I'm going to give them one more chance, like Biggie says, you know what I'm saying? Or the Biggie song, give me one more chance.
One more chance.
So there we go. So I'm gonna swing it back to you like KP and Envy. So
yeah, man. So I feel like they're not doing Lamar any type of service. Wonderful. They're just they're fumbling the ball. Like I was just fumbling these words.
Ooh, I like that.
They're dropping the bag, and it's just not a good look so far. So I'm kind of disappointed. Good thing I'm not a big Ravens fan.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm like, if I had to pick a second team, it would be the Ravens.
Hey, I don't blame you, man.
So I'm not fully invested.
You bleed silver and black.
Yeah,
cool,
I'm still a Raiders fan.
Raiders.
So we'll get into that in a little bit. But like, I don't think they're doing a good job in doing any helping him at all. I do think they're hindering him in a sense where he has the talent to drop back in the pocket and let that thing go. But I think they focus too much on his legs. We've talked a bunch of times before as far as Greg Roman and what he does with mobile quarterbacks and his history. So I don't think they're doing a good job by him. I'm kind of curious to see what route they go with. Yeah. As far as the draft.
There's a lot of receivers in the draft, man. A lot of good ones now.
And I do think that like the you can't really say what somebody or evaluate an offseason or a free agency period until you see who they draft.
Exactly.
Because I think like I'm gonna go into the Raiders in the next segment and give my thoughts on their free agency. But like as far as the Ravens, you can't really tell until, like I just said, you can't really tell until you go into you see what happens in the draft. And so with that, I'm curious, but as of right now, unless they sign a Sammy Watkins, who you told me visited the Ravens facility, Kenny Galladay was talked about, but he never went to the actual facility.
Right. No contract was offered to Kenny Galladay.
Plus he got 4 years, $72 million. Like there's no way I'm giving you that type of money unless I think you're the final piece.
Exactly.
And it's, it's whether or not he's the final piece or not. I do think that he would have helped. Most certainly he would have. He most certainly would have helped.
Most certainly.
But I don't know if he would have been the final piece, which is why I'm okay with them. Just from looking,
they could go
outside looking in. Yeah, I'm okay with them not trying to break the bank and give him all the loot.
Give me the loot.
So for him, I'm happy for him.
Mm-hmm.
And in a second, we're gonna go into whether or not that was a good pickup for the Giants. But I'm kind of curious to see what happens. I said the jury's still out, so I'm not gonna smack and jump overboard and throw the team, throw the whole organization away.
Right.
But I am curious to see what they do in the draft. And so until then, that will be when I'll be slamming the gavel on them and on their off season and seeing what happens. I'm kind of curious how he develops as a passer as well. If they are going to bring in a Sammy Watkins or draft a wide receiver, a big body wide receiver, or even someone. Like, I think with Hollywood, and I brought this up yesterday when we were talking, like with the same thing with Ruggs, because I do think, not that they have the same skill level, but like what we see them as is they're the same player pretty much.
Yeah.
And so I do think Ruggs is a better route runner as we speak.
Better catcher too.
And has better hands. And so with that, but I still, just because you don't see someone do it and you might not think that they're the best, doesn't mean that you don't try it.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, that speed and him breaking off his route, it's something that you should be afraid of as a person that's covering him. But if you don't ever have to worry about him breaking off his route, then I can just sit on you trying to run deep.
Right.
And so I'm kind of curious to see
how his technique,
how he develops as a route runner, a receiver, as well as a just how the offense goes as well as who they draft. So until that's where I'm gonna leave that. We're definitely about to jump into these winners and losers of the free agency period.
Yeah.
We could definitely jump out there and say the Rams did a good job.
Oh, the Rams, the Giants now?
The Giants now.
Because they got a plethora of different pass catching options.
Right.
The Patriots, I thought they overpaid somewhat for the Matthew Judons of the world, but they still got 2 tight ends, young tight ends.
Right.
So they did something for
I think
Cam,
they got needs.
Right, for Cam and for a potential future quarterback like we talked about.
Right.
You know?
So like with that, I do think people are going to want to go with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Raiders did a good job. I'll go into more detail on that, but I'm going to let you go first.
All right. Yeah, so for me,
a winner and a loser.
Yeah, all right. So I'm going to have to say for the winners, I have to go with the New England Patriots. The reason why I'm going to go with the New England Patriots is because as currently constructed, they needed tight ends for that offense, right? They needed big body catchers because Cam Newton is a guy that at times he can struggle with actually throwing off his back foot, even though he's a veteran quarterback. But they were devoid of pass catching weapons. Not only did you go out and get one, you got 2. Like Jay Dilla said, 1's cool, but 2 is not enough for me, though.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Rest in peace to the legendary producer Jay Dilla. But wound up getting a Hunter Henry, and you had a Jonnu Smith. Okay, so a Jonnu Smith, you're looking at guys who are the age, I believe, 26 and 28. And if you're to draft a quarterback, you know, this draft, next draft, whatever, you know what I'm saying. They'll already have pass catching options for them. You also got a Nelson Aguilar. That was the one where I was kind of like, you know, but you need someone other than Jacoby Myers, someone who was like formerly playing a quarterback in college, you know. So you need pass catching options for that team. Then you got a pass rush, right? So you have Matthew Judon. He's a Pro Bowl level pass rusher coming from the Baltimore Ravens. He's much more than just a pass rusher. He can play the run. So he's what you call a hybrid. He can blitz. He can stop the run. He can do a bevy of different things for that New England Patriots defense, right? So you want to make sure that you can control the ball. You have big targets in the red zone, things of that nature. And so that's what they were able to do for Cam Newton. So I'm going to go with the winner. I'm going to go with the New England Patriots right there. And then as far as a loser, I'm looking around and I'm looking at the Minnesota Vikings. Here's a team. I'm like, what have they done? Right. You know, I heard about the Adam Thielen thing, but Thielen, you know, he's going to get up there in age. I believe he's actually 31 years old. You have Dalvin Cook, you have Kirk Cousins, but outside of that, they didn't really do anything. They need offensive line help. Okay. So I'm looking at a team like that. Where's that? You know, the Vikings is a team that I'm just like, you need to be striking the iron while it's hot, especially when you have a team where you have the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers that just went to the NFC Championship game, and they were once again unable to get over the hump. So I'm like, let's make some changes around here. If I'm Minnesota, if I'm a Vikings fan, let's make some changes and really try to go for a run, because I still remember when they upset the Drew Brees-led Saints. What was it, 2 seasons ago now? So let's see if they can get back to that level of productivity. So I was actually kind of disappointed in the Minnesota Vikings in the free agency period.
And with me, I am definitely going to go, and I'm going to highlight some teams. I do think that sometimes we pay too much attention to who actually went into free agency versus keeping some of your players from being free agents. And so I do want to highlight some teams like the Buffalo Bills was able to keep some of their key players, or so they signed Emmanuel Sanders, but they were able to keep a Darrell Williams, a John Feliciano, a Matt Milano, which those might not be big names to the average person and people that actually follow it can see. Like, keeping those people within the organization instead of letting them walk can be it's an addition without having to go outside of the organization. And so I do think it's funny. I'm looking at this website right now, and it's The Ringer, and it's got some of these teams that I think that they're that they have as losers, I'm just like, I kind of slightly disagree with you.
Right.
But
anything in life can be argued for or against, right?
Right. And so with that, I do think that a winner that people is when I go along with the keeping certain players in the organization, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what they were able to do.
Yep.
When some people thought that they would lose a lot of that talent, looks like they're able to keep it, and we're going to see what happens next.
Yeah. And they didn't have to make major moves. It was like a small major move,
right?
Like retaining a Shaq Barrett.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Keeping Levante David, Shaq Barrett, able to get Gronk to come back for another season, getting Tom Brady to extend his contract, which also saves money in this time period where they're trying to keep a Chris Godwin, who they franchise tag. So we'll see if they're able to get a contract worked out, or if they can even if they'll move him.
And could they potentially bring back AB on a small deal? Because I always was, I'm not sure how you feel about it, but I always was of the mindset that Antonio Brown is going to still continue to be on that team. He's not on the team yet, but I figure they'll bring him back. Let's go get a second Super Bowl ring. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious with that. And then so like how you brought up the New England Patriots, like on here it has them as a loser. And I'm just like, I don't see with all this talent that they signed, especially with people that they signed at positions they needed.
You have youth there. Yeah.
Right. Like they were able to bring a Kyle Van Noy back into it, and he played well with them. Didn't play well, wasn't highly favored when he went to the Dolphins. But I mean, come on back. And with the Patriots, they have a history of people playing well for them, going to other places and not playing well and coming back and still being able to perform at the level they were
very
prior to that. So like with that, I'm cool with that. Then you get a Hunter Henry, a Jonnu Smith, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar, Matthew Judon, Jalen Mills. They got back Trent Brown, who played well for them. And then I think some of the things, like I was talking to the homie earlier today, and we were talking about just your mindset. Like people, because I hear all the time, people like, oh, I want to move and I'm tired of Vegas and Vegas people this and Vegas that. But it's like unless you take some of the responsibility and not being able to be successful in a place and really change your mindset, it doesn't matter where you go because you're still going to have that same mindset. So, and then my boy was like, well, Vegas is not the best place if you don't have the right mindset. So someone like Trent Brown coming out here, young, got all this, we gave him a big deal, a big contract. So being out here in Vegas with all this opportunity to get into, make some of the worst decisions you can make in your life.
Right.
I do think him going back, I'm curious to see what happened to Trent Brown, whether or not they continue to keep giving him the money that the Raiders had gave him, or if they try to rework out a deal with him. And then with that, so I'm cool. Like I don't see them as a loser, and I even see the Raiders on here as a loser. So the one thing that I wanted to bring up is when it comes to this draft, because right now you look and you see we got rid of Rodney Hudson. We traded him for a 3rd rounder. Traded Gabe Jackson for a 5th rounder. Traded Trent Brown back to the Patriots for a 5th rounder. Those 3 alone, I can see where you would be coming from because you're losing like just pretty much what our offensive line was between Hudson and Gabe Jackson on the inside, along with Donald Penn, who he wasn't what he was before, but just that leadership in the locker room.
Right.
So I believe that some of the moves that we made previously, plus what I foresee us drafting some offensive line help. So with that, then we get, I still can't say this man's last name, but we got Yannick Ngakoue.
Yes.
All right. And then John Brown, who most people wouldn't look at and be like, oh my God, that's anything to be happy about. But he's had moments where he's shown that he could be a legit number 2 if you got a number 1. So it's at this point we already, you would think, all right, so we got at least Darren Waller who can play a number 1. Now let's see if Ruggs can be a number 1.
Yeah, and with John Brown, I was going to mention that if you look at what he was able to do with the Buffalo Bills, as well as, it was the Buffalo Bills, right? So once he left, obviously like Lamar at the time, he was young, but whenever he was paired with a quarterback that was good with the deep ball, Derek Carr is good with the deep ball, right?
Right.
So that's why I'm not really even
and he played well with the Cardinals.
Right, I'm not worried about his fit
Right.
You don't need him to get a 1,500 yards. You just need him to have a quarterback
Right.
that's going to get him that ball in that
Right.
area where he needs it. So I think that was actually an underrated pickup, in my opinion.
And another ex-Cardinal, Kenyon Drake, we grabbed him up.
Yes,
to get, because one, I'm a huge fan of Josh Jacobs, but he is injury prone. One of the things I don't think they use enough with him is him in the passing game.
Okay.
And I do think that that's why we brought in a Kenyon Drake, because he is an all-around back, and has been proven to do such. And then us, and actually in addition by subtraction, getting rid of a contract like LaMarcus Joyner, who we brought in at a certain spot. I do think we were playing him out of position, but then I do think the reason why we played him at that spot is the spot we signed you for. We don't think you're the best spot. And that's fair. I do think that with that, along with some of with what we could possibly do in the draft, the team that we currently have, because one of the things I think a lot of people, they start talking about Clelin Ferrell.
Yeah, he was the first round pick?
Yeah, we took him at number 4. And I just had this conversation with my boy. And so I was like, when you really take a look at his career, if you draft him at number 4, you're expecting him to come in and be a Chase Young, a Nick Bosa,
Warren Sapp.
Right. Something along those lines. Something along those lines. And so, but when you really go down and look at the numbers and really analyze the numbers, like the homie Tar sent me a stat sheet, and it was the amount of pressures, how good he is at stopping the run,
right, and
his effect on the game. There's not too many defensive ends, period. Like, he's in the top 3 or 5 in affecting the game in its entirety. Now, it doesn't lead to sacks. Now you look and see Max Crosby as our sack leader.
Yeah.
But then a lot of times you look and you look up and you see Ferrell is playing he's playing defensive tackle.
Right. Pressures matter.
Right. And so you gotta and with that, you would really think that man is playing out of position.
Yeah.
By putting him at the tackle position. But then you bring it in Ngakoue, as well as having Max on the other side, and then you can have the liberty of moving Ferrell in or move him out. You can move Ngakoue inside, and you can move him out.
Yeah,
it gives that. I do think we need help at safety on the other side of Abrams.
Okay.
I'm actually cool with our. I would like for us to bring in a veteran cornerback. And then I want to see us get some linebacker help, and then draft or at least either not draft a wide receiver, but let Ruggs open up the route tree for him, and then see what we got. And then I'm 100% cool with what we got here. I don't agree that we're losers in this free agency period.
Right.
It could be my bias, but I think that there's teams that did way worse.
Yeah.
Like the Vikings, you couldn't even tell me a move off the top of the head that they did.
I mean,
unless
they have
you really
Justin,
went and looked it up.
Right, they have Justin Jefferson there, so I guess he's a new franchise piece. That's not shade. I love Justin Jefferson,
he's
but
great.
I always say you want to continue to build as much as you can, because they even lost. I believe they lost Kyle Rudolph. I believe so.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so
So yeah. I think you got teams like that they're doing much worse.
Yeah.
And so with that, I'm kind of curious to see what happens with the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Then right now we've had some devastating injuries in the NBA.
Dun dun
dun.
Moment of silence.
Like Shannon Sharp said, that it's funny when he said that, because that played in my head too.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like when LeBron went down, all you could hear is, "Oh no, oh no." Oh no.
Oh man.
So LeBron has a high ankle sprain and he will be out. At first it was like a couple games. Now the same way with AD and his injury, it started off where it was only supposed to be a couple games. Now it's been a month and we haven't seen him play. So I'm curious to see, and that's your team. So
yeah, it's my team. Right?
What y'all gonna do, man?
Look, man, I'm gonna say this right now. This is a PSA, public service announcement, for all you bottom feeder Western Conference teams out there that believe that the West is wide open. Yeah, the West is open right now. All right. So here's the thing, right? While LeBron and AD, so you have to understand, right? They're in that Dragon Ball Z tank. with the mask on right now, man.
Right.
They resting up, you know what I'm saying? They resting up. But LeBron James, anytime he put a lengthy post out there, the way he did for a high ankle sprain, you would think that he, tore his Achilles or something, right? I'm not being insensitive, you know what I'm saying? But it's the fact that he said, I'll be back soon. Last time that LeBron James said he'll be back soon, I believe he missed like 18 games. So, it's like we have to be like, you'll be back soon. And also, like, this is a time for LeBron to also get some type of rest. And for some of the other players to kind of get into their own rhythm, sans LeBron James. Because when we look at the Lakers teams or any team that LeBron James is on, there's times when he's not practicing with the teams, which I'm not a big advocate of. And so whenever he's, not there, they wind up struggling. But this will give them a chance to kind of get some continuity with their own teammates and things of that nature. But right now, the Lakers, I believe that people should be cautious with them. I'm actually more concerned with Anthony Davis's injury because Anthony Davis is dealing with an Achilles injury. They call it a calf strain, but your calf is attached to your Achilles. And we saw what happened with the calf strain, right, with KD. Right. You have to be very, very cautious with that because when you're dealing with the Achilles, right, there is no real necessarily a set timetable. Like I have Achilles issue with my left Achilles, and there's times when it's chronic now, right? So there's times when you just wish you could cut it off. So like all I can say with AD, you have to be cautious with that. As far as the other teams, a threat for the West, I'm looking at the Clippers. But the problem with the Clippers is I'll continue to say they're inconsistent.
Right.
They're inconsistent. They have talent, but they're inconsistent, and they're still missing two pieces. They're missing a point guard. Yes, they have Paul George playing that point forward position. And at times he does well. But in the playoffs, when the games get close, do you really want those guys making those decisions for them? You're trying to implement the triangle. Get a point guard like a George Hill. I mentioned a George Hill, and we'll go into like the trades later. But I feel like George Hill would be there. You have obviously Lonzo Ball. I was thinking you could have bought him low. Instead, now his stock is going to be high. And then I'm looking out in the Eastern Conference, you have LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball's injury as well. And so that's huge, and you're talking about a team that was, momentum. So I think with the Lakers, I think what happened is they stopped their momentum because there was a point when I believe they went like 4-0 with LeBron. And this is after this is like games and weeks since AD's been gone, but they finally started to kind of hit that stride. So I feel like the biggest loss for the Lakers was the momentum killer, LeBron's injury. You know what I'm saying? So how do you kind of look at it with someone, a prominent figure like him being out in the Western Conference? Are there any other teams out there that you really see as a threat? I mean, you got Utah,
The one thing that I've had this conversation with a few people, and when it comes to the Suns, I've heard people bring up their bench.
Right.
And I think that it's one of those things where I kind of take a page from when Chris Paul and James Harden played for the Rockets. If you remember how they got a lot of success, is they would stagger their minutes, where they would start the game together. After a couple minutes of playing, Chris Paul would go to the bench, or James would go to the bench, and then you would have one of them playing with the second unit. Where I think that with the Suns, you have 4 legit hoopers.
Okay.
Now the rest you can go and argue whether or not, but you got CP, you got Bridges, you got Devin Booker, and you got DeAndre Ayton.
Fair enough.
Regardless of who else is on the court with them, you have to pay attention to all 4 of those players.
Okay.
And so I think that you can, with a Devin Booker and CP, they're both ball handlers. They were trying Devin Booker out at point prior to CP getting there. So you can at least play Devin Booker at the point spot.
Yeah, he can be like a combo.
Right.
Yeah.
And run the offense through him when CP goes to the bench.
Okay.
Then you can probably leave a DeAndre Ayton in the game with him as well and put Bridges on the bench. And then you can kind of stagger all 4 of their minutes to where you at least have 2 of them on the court playing with, everybody else would say everybody else is scrubs, but I don't think that they're scrubs, but they're a bunch of lackluster.
So you're saying let's not run the offense through Javon Carter.
Exactly. Like
he's
he's defensive specialist. So like while he's in the game,
he's what Pat Beverly's
right.
Like,
He's not trash. He's not a scrub.
Right. He's an energy.
He's a role player for a reason. He's a role player for a reason. So like bring him off the bench.
Right, Javon Carter.
If you want to play him alongside Chris Paul, then you can try that as well, because Chris Paul has shown you in spurts that he can get you a bucket, or he can run your offense, whichever one that you need, which goes to that whole IQ question conversation we talked about earlier. I think that's an interesting one, because it's like, how do you measure that? But Chris Paul has showed that he's had top 5 IQ since he's been in the league.
Yeah.
And so shoot to the point where Kobe wanted to play with him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would have been two-way players.
Right. In their primes.
In their primes, the mentality that would permeate throughout their teammates would be amazing, bro.
Right. So like with that, I think that's the biggest obstacle, without mentioning Utah or the Clippers.
To
the Lakers. Yeah. It's just whether or not can they do it in the playoffs.
See, my thing is when I'm looking at those Phoenix Suns, like their bench does give me cause to pause. But I'll say this: let's say I take I don't look at the bench per se, right? I think the one thing that could make them dangerous is this: anytime you have a team with nothing to lose, right, and a young team with nothing to lose, that's the best thing, because they can play free.
Right.
They're not expected to beat the Lakers.
True.
They're not expected to beat the Clippers. They're not really even expected to beat the Utah Jazz. Right. You know what I'm saying? So they will be the underdog in every single series that they're playing,
regardless of record, too.
So there we go. So I think the fact that you have the youth on their side, anytime you have a LeBron and AD having to come back from injuries, having to get back into a rhythm, things of that nature. You have the inconsistency of, once again, the Clippers. I'm still looking for this 96 Bulls defensive team, that we were promised, right?
Right.
They show it in spurts and other times. I'm like, and then another thing with the Clippers, Ibaka's been out,
right,
with injury, man. So
believe me, I know. My fantasy team is struggling.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So I think with the Suns, anytime you have a chance to a team that has nothing to lose, this is the year, man, where it's like the Lakers have real injuries that they're dealing with, man. You had Gasol with the COVID thing, you have LeBron out, you have AD out, and all these other teams, they have these little nicky-nacky injuries, but the Phoenix Suns are still trudging along. So I think that's the credence I give the Phoenix Suns, is the fact that they're a young team and they have nothing to lose, and they have one of the best floor generals in the NBA and one of the best floor generals of all time, that with every team that he goes to, right, he improves that team, right?
Right.
So I think that's where the Phoenix Suns' bread and butter is going to be, and I believe that they have the right leader to lead the ship in CP3.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of curious to see what happens with that as far as where they finish, how well they finish this season, and how well they do in the playoffs. With the trade deadline approaching, there's been a lot of rumors. Scary Terry has been talked about whether or not he would be traded. I've seen him connected to the Lakers. I've seen him connected to the Clippers. Lonzo Ball connected to the Clippers as well. Gorgie Jang is another person that's came up in trade talks, whether or not he'll be bought out or traded.
Right.
Andre Drummond, JaVale McGee. And so with those things, all of those teams, I mean, not teams, but players, whether or not they've been rumored, we've been talking about Bradley Beal, whether or not he'll be traded
right.
for forever. So
Ever.
Right. So with that, like, who do you think needs to make a trade?
Okay, so the first trade, I'm looking at the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat were rumored to be, with James Harden, and I feel like they missed out on that. That was early in the season. They completely missed out on that. And the reason why I say that was because if we remember last year, they were devoid of a secondary scorer, someone, a shot creator. Excuse me. You had to rely on Kendrick Nunn coming off the bench, a young guy who could cook and get some points when Dragic was out. And then they tried to implement Dragic back in. He messed up the rhythm. Right. But when they played the Lakers, it had LeBron and AD. But even without LeBron and AD, you needed that secondary playmaker on your team, Could be Kawhi Leonard in this offseason, but we'll get that later. You know, if Kawhi decides to leave, that would be a perfect fit. Him, Bam, Jimmy Butler. Oh my.
Right.
But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. But they need another piece. I've heard Kyle Lowry linked there. John Wall at one point was linked there.
Oladipo.
Right.
I see him linked there too.
Yeah, the point guards, the injury prone, point guard past his prime. John Wall's not it. The expiring contract, Kyle Lowry, 34 years old. That's not it. You need a nice young piece, and I'm not quite sure all the contractual situations right now, but I'm looking at all those types of scores. Oladipo, I thought Oladipo was actually going to end up in Miami.
Right.
I think we all did. And then that didn't happen, you know what I'm saying? But he's injury prone. But the Miami Heat, I believe, need to make a trade. Then my second team, once again, as we all heard the rumors of Lonzo Ball, I mentioned him in the last segment, was because Lonzo Ball, I felt the Clippers when he was low, right? Low priced, low commodity, low in spirits, whatever, low confidence. That's when they should have probably scooped him up, because now I'm looking at Lonzo Ball and the way he's playing what he was projected to be. You know what I'm saying? But he fits the need in terms of transition. Their pace has struggled immensely, the Clippers, right? So they need someone who can do that. Another guy that can defend. Well, he's 6'7", right? And he has the wingspan and the defensive prowess to defend point guards. And he's a primary playmaker who doesn't need the basketball to be effective. He can move off the ball. He can get rebounds. He can start the fast break, etc. The only reservation I would have with Lonzo Ball is his injury history, right? He's been out with a hip injury. He had a hip injury that he was out with. And then his free throw shooting and his lack thereof of playoff experience. So that will lead me to segue to my other piece, was a George Hill. A George Hill, I believe, would fit that team because, one, he has a rapport with Paul George from his Indiana days when he took LeBron James 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. And that's a team that they are expecting to meet in the conference finals, something that they fell short of last year, right? So he has experience going up against LeBron. Also, he played underneath the tutelage of Ty Lue, right? In the 2017, I believe, NBA Finals on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Yes, we know about the free throws, but he has finals experience, right? He's a veteran point guard. He's 6'4". He can play defense and he can shoot the three. He's not the best shot creator, but he's going to also provide floor spacing with the 3-point shot, and he can start a break. So I'm looking at George Hill. I think that is more in the realm of possibility based off of their financial situation and cap. I actually think if they were to make a move, the clock is ticking. George Hill could actually be there. I know he's coming off that thumb injury, so I'm looking at that. And then any other trades for the Lakers, I would think they need a rim protector. They need a rim protector. I told you in the past, I've told people in the past, I thought they made a huge mistake in not being able to retain a Dwight Howard or a JaVale McGee. Now you have a Montrezl Harrell, you have a what I call Mark Gasol, who can't defend that high pick and roll, and people are just going right through him. And we saw what Montrezl Harrell did in the bubble. We saw what he did outside the bubble. He's not no rim protector, man.
No,
he's a hustle rebounder who can create his own shot.
He'll make you work.
Yeah, he'll make you work.
But he's not protecting the paint.
Right. And
no sense of the word.
Yeah, my last piece is a team that I feel like doesn't need to continue to make any more trades is the Brooklyn Nets.
Right.
Because they have the championship in their paws right now. That's just for the moment.
Right.
But hey, if they want to add me and Ralph, we're here,
I'll
man, for that vet minimum.
I'll definitely take that ring.
Like, yo, KD, give me that rock, man.
Yeah, I'm open. Hit me,
man, bro. Brooklyn, we go hard.
Bro. I'm out here wearing Tim's, Coogee sweaters.
Exactly, man.
Got the strongest accent.
Facts, bro, man. So
dead ass.
But that's where I'm at, man. What about you with these trades, man? Like the block is hot, man. Trade block is hot, man.
I think one of the things I'm interested to see is where Oladipo, because I do think that like
crazy.
Right. And so how he was playing prior to his knee injury, and then he came back and it took some time. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think I'm trying to think, what was it? Last season? Was his last season? His first season back?
Indiana? For the leg injury.
From the torn ACL.
In the bubble, yeah.
And so I think he comes back, he struggled last season, but he had started playing pretty well prior to being traded, which is why I think he had the love that he was getting as far as teams trying to get him. Right. And so to pair him with like a Jimmy Butler who Oladipo is no slouch on defense.
Yeah.
His ability to get his own bucket, as well as being able to guard 1 through 3, the same Jimmy can guard, shoot 1 through 4.
Exactly.
I think that gives them a big push. I'm kind of curious what would you? I know he's part of my team, and I know I've talked about us using him and trading him as well. What do you think about like a Lauri Markkanen going to the Heat, and you can pair him and put him alongside him and Bam on the same front court or back court?
So actually, I like that because Bam can play 5.
Right.
He can play the 5 because the thing with Bam is he's not going to be like some 7-footer, but he has athleticism.
Right.
So I actually like that
and
because Lauri, and the strength. So Lauri could be that stretch 4,
right?
That stretch 4 piece, and that actually puts Bam in that position where he doesn't have to, okay, I need to be out on the corner trying to shoot threes like Joel Embiid, like nah, But it'd be nice if he could add that element. But the thing is, if you look at I believe it was the Milwaukee Bucks series. When he pretty much like threw Giannis to the ground, bro.
Right.
So like Bam can play the 5. He's just so versatile. I think that would actually open up another element to their game, Lauri Markkanen, because I think a lot of people are looking at more of the Beals of the world and things of that nature. But I feel like if they were to settle, that would definitely help. Now, I don't believe that Lauri defensively is like going to be like a Tim Duncan,
right?
But I think that would actually definitely add another element to their team because now you would have, I believe the backup is what, Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah.
So you would have Lauri. You would have, that's if Olynyk stays, but you have Lauri. You have Jimmy, who can occasionally hit the 3, but when he's hot, he can get hot. You have Dragic still there.
Right.
You have the brothers, Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. But then we got to think about, because they might be giving up one of those people.
Right.
I know Pat Riley loves Hero, but Duncan Robinson, we saw in the play. I kept trying to tell you, like, not you, but just people in general. Excuse me, was like he was getting destroyed on those pick and roll plays, and he couldn't do it. If he's not shooting the ball, he's not putting the ball on the floor.
Right.
So what they do is press up on those receivers. I mean, not receivers, press up on those shooters.
Right.
Excuse me. Where with Markkanen, he can actually put his back to the basket.
Right.
So I believe that just the fact that he's able to score in a plethora of different ways would actually open up an element for the Miami Heat moving forward, and they can make some type of a push. So I actually kind of like that as a sleeper move.
Yeah, because I think I've just seen that right there, and I was like, I've talked about them trading him, and I seen that the Bulls were open to trade talks involving Lauri. And as far as like the Bulls, I'm cool with what we have as far as I don't like the fact that Kobe White's been coming off the bench lately. I do think that with the team that we have, we're not constructed to win anything.
Okay.
Like, I had us going to the playoffs, but outside of that, like, we're not going to do anything. So let him take his lumps.
Right.
Like, I feel like you're doing him a disservice by bringing him off the bench and bringing in Zadaransky, which he's a cool role player, but he's not what the potential of what Kobe White could be.
Yeah.
He showed you he's had multiple games where he's had made more than 5 threes. Him and Zach have both had games where they made 8 threes or more.
Right.
Or even in the same game they made 8 threes. And so, like, with that, I'm cool. I like that spot. Then obviously Zach is Zach. And then this is the 4th spot is where it kind of gets weird, because we drafted Pat with the idea, and I would think you would go into it like, are we going to have Wendell at the 5, Lauri at the 4, Pat at the 3? But then Lauri gets hurt, so then you move Pat to the 4, and that opens up a dynamic because he has such a big body at such a young already.
Yeah.
And he's like 6'8", 6'9", but he's already able to play up to a 4. Maybe even a small 5, depending on what type of team you're running up against. And so then you also have Wendell as someone who is, I think he's a legit 5. He's gonna be he's a rim protector. He makes you work in the post. He can range. He's stretching out his game to the 3-pointer. So we'll see as far as like his pick and roll defense, because that's such a heavy thing in the NBA now. But like, I'm kind of curious to see what they do, if they make any moves at all, if they unload anybody.
Because see, the Bulls are a team that, like I always said, if Anthony Davis was actually had ever left LA, You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It goes to Chicago. He's perfect because like Wendell's nice, but they need that other guy. Like if they were,
Right.
I'm assuming like if Zach LaVine, like because we don't know what the future is, but like if Zach LaVine is your guy, right?
He said he wants to stay
Right.
too. I've seen him
and
come out and say he wants to stay there.
He's and I bring it up because he's mentioned these two things. I remember he was actually on, I believe, First Take about a season or two ago, and he told them, he said, I would like to go to a team, if I'm traded or whatever, sign with a team, whatever, et cetera, that has a pass first point guard, his words, and a dominant big man. And the two teams I thought were obviously the Lakers, you know, because it's like, you know, what's his face was like, it sounds like I'm here in LA.
Right.
And then I was thinking, obviously, the Philadelphia 76ers, because the ages align up. That would be one of the nastiest young teams, right? So I feel like with the Bulls, if they could get that nice big piece that like, or because I feel like Carter has a ceiling, right. But if they could just have like a guy, like a big guy could just come out of the sky somewhere and just like dominate like Embiid or something, you know what I'm saying? For you guys, that'd be, you know, but I know we're talking about trades, but I'm just thinking like I feel like that's the element we're talking about in terms of the Bulls being able to get to the playoffs. Because I look at the Knicks, right? And you're like, yo, the Knicks are winning games. Like what? Yeah, like, people saying the Knicks are back. I'm like, yo, the Bulls gotta get to that.
But the issue with the Bulls has always been health, man, because like, and I don't want to go too far because we gotta get to the next topic, but like, it's just to finish this up. The issue with the Bulls has always been health. Is for as long as we can ever think of.
It's like the Pacers. Someone always get hurt.
Right. Back to like Derrick Rose. Then you finally get Jimmy, but then Derrick's is not the player Derrick was. Then Joakim Noah gets hurt.
Right.
And it's so like pretty much our whole team gets hurt. Right. And then like we get Laurie. Laurie's a great piece. He shows some promise. He has some 20 and 10 in him. Right. But he can't stay in the lineup. Then we get Otto Porter, who's a great. He comes in, shows that he can be that starting three. Right. Can't stay in the lineup because he's injured all the time. So it's like with us, we got to find people that are gonna stay healthy.
So are you implying that after watching The Last Dance, that because they chose not to keep the Bulls together, that they're cursed?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm not going that far.
They're cursed like the Clippers and all these other teams, man.
Yeah, I'm not going that far.
I just had to add some of that humor in it.
It's just stuff like, hey, man. Because it could be right. Like me and the homie, we were talking about this the other day. Man, is injuries out of all the top 10 people that got drafted. Right. Like none of them are busts, you can say now, but like of all the ones that got drafted, even if you take, like people thought we were going to take Denny. Like now in hindsight, how Denny looks, I'm kind of cool. We took Pat. Right. So like with that, like it's just about getting people that are going to come in and stay healthy because understandable. Because Pat has showed, even Zach and many people made this comparison. He has some Kawhi in him. The big hands, big body, strong defense, 3-and-D, and then can eventually, hopefully he can get to that next level, branch out his game, because he started off as a point guard and then had a growth spurt. We've heard this story many a times, but it also helps with that ball handling skill. So I don't want to take too long on it. I'm kind of curious to see what happens as far as if the Bulls make a move. Okay. But man, my bracket busted. Struggling. But yeah, man, my after those first couple of days, I was straight. Like I was cool. I was looking good. I seen some of the stuff coming. Even my upset that ended up ruining my bracket. Now, it has literally nothing to do with on the ball court. Okay. But if I would have known that lady that is 102 years old is still alive, right, I would have taken Loyola Chicago. Yeah. Because I knew about them in 2018. Right. I didn't see that coming then, but now I saw it coming and was like, all right, they're gonna get it done. I knew they were gonna win the first round, but I was like, Ayo, right, Cockburn, like never happened, right? And then they just, I think that with them, they went. Sometimes you have an advantage that you try to go to too much to where it gets other players out of rhythm. Right. Especially when that's not how you've been playing all year. Facts. It's been that Kofi was your two to the 1-2 punch, but like to go to him so much to where other players, we were a great 3-point shooting team, and then just couldn't even throw a grape in the ocean. So like it sucked to watch that. I think that one was my biggest one because I looked at it, analyzed my bracket, and still got upset.
All right. Yeah, like when I look at the March Madness, I always tell people this. One thing I've learned over the years is obviously it's so we look at the top teams, right? With the top teams, and it's called March Madness for a reason. Obviously, it's upsets happen, but it's the difference between that and the NBA is the NBA is a 7-game series.
Right.
So with March Madness, it's what team is playing the best ball that night.
Right.
You feel me? So and
not even during that time period.
Right.
That night.
So it's like, remember when obviously it's, it's kind of different example, but the Mavs beat the Lakers. Obviously that was a 7-game series, but I remember that one in 2011, there was a game when they shot like 83% from 3. So if you use that to March Madness, there's teams like I have Oral Roberts. We talk about the biggest upset, right? Oral Roberts beating Ohio State. Like they got hot from 3.
Right.
So they're a 3-point shooting team. So it's like, if you can knock down all those threes and you can knock off a 2 seed like Ohio State and things of that nature. So like, I'm looking at these brackets and I'm like, but it's crazy, Ralph, that you had like the Texas, you had Illinois, you had like, I get, the level of variance that there is, but to have so many so early, right. That I think that shocked everyone. And so far, Gonzaga's there, and Baylor, a team that a lot of people were thinking was going to go down.
I definitely thought it would have been them.
Yeah, but both those teams are getting those double-digit wins. So I still got both me and you have Gonzaga in the chip. I have Gonzaga winning, but Oklahoma State, I was actually bragging. I was like, well, Gonzaga and Oklahoma State, they're still alive. And somebody literally on social media, some dude I don't even know, he was like, that's because Oklahoma State hasn't played yet. And so he played and they lost. I was like... I was like, bro, I hate you, man. I was like, no, bro. He's like, that's because they haven't played yet. Bro, man, this is, and I don't want to go, this is another topic, but the over-reliance on threes, man, like this IQ of the game, like the skills there, but man, I saw Oklahoma State just jack up threes, man.
Because I'm trying to think, what was it? It was the Drake. Drake, when they played, I forgot who they played, but it came down to it, and there's 5 seconds left, and you get the ball.
Right.
And you're running down court. Instead of pushing to try to get the best shot. He's taking his time to get up court so he can like, all right, cool. So I can, bro, you're not Dame Lillard. Why are you even, why is that shot even in your head?
Right. Yeah.
And this the IQ of the game. The Nuggets did something earlier in the season where it was like 2 seconds left and they had 3, it was like a 4-on-1 fast break and everybody is on the 3-point line.
Yeah.
Why not one person was like, hey, I'm gonna go get this layup? Like crazy. I was just like, dude, and I want to say they were only down by 1.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's a situational things. Or like I'll give you another example. Was they were with the Oklahoma State game which they lost, right? And they were making a nice little push, but the team that they lost to, right? I think it was Oregon State, right? There was the point guard for Oregon State. They were actually up, but still, it wasn't like he got the ball on this. I think it was rebound or whatever, and he pushed the ball up the court, and he saw like a longer defender who was like 6'9" was about to be on him. Instead of doing like a change of direction, or change of whatever, and try to draw the contact, at least he could try to draw the contact, probably get blocked, or instead of bringing the ball back out and waiting for all his teammates, what he does? He's like dribble, and he sees the big tall guy and he just chucks up a 3 with the arm out wrench. And you know what the old announcer was like, oh my goodness,
right?
On cue, bro. I died. I fell off my sofa. I was like, this is crazy, man. Oh my goodness. So yeah, it's every year in March Madness now we're starting to see this, but yeah, was there a specific upset that you thought was huge? For me, it was obviously the Oral Roberts being able to beat Ohio State and the 7th seed Florida. That was the biggest upset for me. But what about you?
I do think that for me, not that they're the biggest upset, but they're a team that didn't have a lot going on for them going into the bubble. I mean, not the bubble, but
hot in the bubble or going into the bubble.
Yeah, but like Creighton, getting this far, I definitely didn't see them. I had them losing.
Yeah. Same.
As a Syracuse fan, Buddy Boeheim is doing the darn thing over there, balling out of control. Or Robert still being in in it. Oregon State, I didn't see them going this far.
No.
The interesting thing for me, I think, going forward will be who will be able to continue their success. Like UCLA, I definitely didn't see them going this far. So to see them, how hot they've been playing, I was watching them play I think it was UCLA, Michigan State, and I want to say is Vasquez.
Okay. Not Gravis Vasquez because
No.
he's been, I was in Maryland.
Hey, that boy was a hooper for Maryland.
Hometown.
But yeah, Vasquez, man, he's been balling for UCLA. So I'm kind of curious to see how well they play against Alabama, and the slew of talent that they have. I had LSU beating Michigan, and it came down to a close game.
Okay.
And Michigan was just able to just keep their heads together and able to play team ball. I do think that with LSU, they have the talent, but obviously for them being an eighth seed going into like in their region, like I'm not surprised that Michigan won. I just looked at it, was like they have the talent to be able to keep up with a Michigan. So like Cam Thomas, I just think my issue with him, and I hope that going to the league, because I'm assuming how well he played this year, that he's gone.
Okay.
But like his shot selection. And it's like, I get it. You got the green light from coach. I get it that you're able to hit that shot. But sometimes just because you can hit the shot doesn't mean you should take the shot.
Yeah.
And so like with that, I'm kind of disappointed.
Shot IQ. Yeah.
Right. I'm disappointed in that, which is something that like a lot of people don't have. Like even KD,
right,
his rookie season, he played well. We could see the talent, but it was like you could point it to being like who else was on that team.
Right.
But sometimes some of them shots, bro, it's like.
But KD's a different breed, man.
But you can.
I know what you're talking about.
To go back to my point, like you can still see it. It's like even not everybody has that shot.
Right.
That shot
bad.
That shot IQ. Because even like Kyrie, a couple years ago, he wasn't as efficient as he is today. Even though we've been able to see the talent.
Right. He's a relatively, but he wasn't always for the most part.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he had his most efficient season once he got to the Celtics.
Yeah, the Boston. I think what it is, like what you're saying is he wasn't automatic with it.
Right.
But in terms of shooting his ability to shoot was always pretty good, because he was never like Jason Kidd with it. But it's just like, I think by the time he got to, well, I'll say, yeah, you're right. Like, I'll say like that last year of Cleveland, and then the Celtics, you really got to see it. But it's like all those tough shots, it was like, yo, this is second nature.
Right.
And then now with Brooklyn, because I wanted to address this really quick, just really a quick nugget, was I remember someone had told me, he's like, yeah, Kyrie Irving, he's not that great or whatever. And I'm like, don't confuse his injuries. This is before this season, but when he went down with injuries, like, don't confuse him being injured to what he's actually producing. I was like, you do realize that he had like his best season ever last year.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He just got hurt.
Right.
So yeah, but I get what you're saying. Like people just You feel me? Not everyone could be the Kyries, the Kobe's, and, and the shoot.
Because like he made tough. He always been able to make tough shots, but the willingness to take the shot is a talent, but then also knowing when not
to take it,
to take that shot.
Russell Westbrook.
Right. And so with that, to go back to what we're talking about though, like the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
Who are you sticking with your team?
Oh yeah, my team's gonna win it all easily, man.
I had them in the championship game. So to make this long story short, I'm just gonna ride with them because I already had them in the game.
Ride with me.
So like I'm kind of curious to see what happens with that.
Oh, they're gonna look.
I don't really. I think the one thing though with them.
Okay.
And it's easy to say this about a lot of teams, honestly, but with them, they are the most evident team that they have to beat themselves in order for you to beat them. Like, there's some teams that's like, all right, you can see Florida State going out and outplaying Michigan. You can see Villanova outplaying Baylor by Baylor having a bad shooting game.
Right.
Like, but as far as Gonzaga, the way that the team is constructed, like, even if they have a bad shooting game, they play really good on defense.
Exactly.
They have other players. Like, they have someone who is clearly the best player on the team as far as potential. from point all the way up to the 5, bench play, senior leadership, coaching,
Exactly.
and knowing like their coach has been to
championship game against, I believe it was North Carolina that game,
right?
Which I thought was,
and he came down to a shot of like he it was a shot worth from winning or tying.
Right, exactly.
And so I do think that they have that championship pedigree. And so I'm kind of curious to see what happens with them. I do think they're the only team that you could say in order for you to win, they have to beat themselves for any other team.
With all due respect, Gonzaga's the type of team that they could start to blow teams out. Like, I think Gonzaga, it could get ugly. But the thing is, let's keep our eye on Michigan now, because Michigan, I know they're a 1 seed, but I just wasn't feeling Michigan like that. But they're playing with good basketball too. Jawan Howard seemed to has that team focused, locked in. So eventually, like, I think both me and you can agree they're gonna run into either the Michigans, the FSUs, one of those teams, because Texas. I had Texas in the Final Four. I'm not quite sure who you had on the bracket on the Final Four in that area, but yeah, Gonzaga is looking nice. It's looking nice, man.
Yeah, because my Final Four, I had Gonzaga, I had Illinois, Alabama, and then I'm trying to remember who was the other one in that region, but
because I was gonna ask you, actually, now that you have Illinois out and I have Oklahoma State out, and we're both believing that Gonzaga is going to win it, who do we see them actually playing as a contender? That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm looking. Baylor, Villanova, Arkansas, Oral Roberts, Loyola Chicago, Oregon State, Syracuse, Houston.
All right, I'm about to pull a Charles Barkley, everyone.
What? I guarantee.
Exactly. There you go. Guess who? Look, man. Look, guys. Oral Roberts.
You guarantee?
I guarantee.
I guarantee Loyola Chicago is going to the championship.
And they lose it by 37. All right.
Gonzaga's gonna play Loyola Chicago.
Loyola Chicago.
You've heard it here first.
Oral Roberts is out. All right. Yo, Oral Roberts makes it, bro. I might faint, man.
Bro, like, for real. Like, I would be. I don't know, right, bro. I could be wrong. You never know, bro. I just don't see them being. I don't even see them beating Arkansas.
Yeah. Hey, look. If Oral Roberts,
if they get to Baylor, they're not beating Baylor.
Look, man. Look. The way did they beat a 1 seed? No, they beat a 2 seed. So I gotta eat right. But all I know is, look, if they make it to the Final Four, right? If they make it to the Final Four, we will have to put the cameras on us wherever we are. I don't care if we are in front of a Popeyes. I'll be like, yo, Ralph, let's do this show right now.
Right.
All right.
I'm gonna be so hurt. If they get that far. Hey, shout out to them boys though.
Yes.
Even though I just was making jokes, but shout out to them boys.
Oh yeah.
We just had a great show. Thank you all for watching.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, guys.
It's definitely been a pleasure. You'll be able to catch this episode on YouTube. You can catch us on Instagram as well. Just take out but it's HeSaySheSay, all one word, sports show. You can catch me on Instagram as well at KYNGRALPH. Sorry about that. King Ralph at King Ralph. Do you think we out, bro?
All right.